Yay Media Group.
Now we have the language to be like, oh, this is fucked because why did anyone think it would be good to do race swapping photo shoots? Not once, but twice. I forgot they did it twice,
I forgot
bitch.
they did it twice, too. I gagged. I was like, wait, so y'all circled the block and did it again after
Yeah,
you
they were
probably
like,
knew that was like a bad decision? It was most definitely.
I never want to hear the internet cancel another person over like blackface that they did 20 years ago, because apparently we as a culture,
we're totally fine with it. We probably
let
like
it
slay.
We're legit in a blizzard here in New York, and I was like ready to make fun of all of these people being like, oh no, we're having snow in the city. It's going to be one of the worst winters we've had in decades. Bitch, there are literal feet of snow like outside of my house. I went to like take the trash out this morning and the snow like blew in on me. It was giving very much like The Shining, you know, like where they're snowed into a hotel.
I've never seen it.
Listen, I was about to do that thing that people do where they're like, what? You haven't seen The Shining? But then I remember.
But you know me now.
No, well, also, it doesn't matter because I think that movie is boring and annoying. And I think it's something for white people to be like, wow, this was really great for us. We really slayed here. And I just don't have the same give a shits about it.
Also, my AC is out. And it's hot, and I run hot. And so you're freezing. I'm actually burning
You're burning up.
Burning
we're
up.
hot and cold together. We are Katy Perry.
Literally. And we're about to have like a little bit of a heat wave this week. So I'm like, please, I need air conditioning because I'm going to melt in here.
Girl, what in the year without a Santa Claus is going on here? I'm Mr. Heat Blister.
We're examples of climate change. But overall, I've been really, really good. And I have been watching so much good TV. And of course, everybody and their mama have been talking. We actually kind of alluded to it last episode, which one, thank you all for watching as always and commenting and doing all the things. But we actually kind of alluded to it. My Highkey last week was all about like, I can't wait of watching Tyra Banks and, no matter what.
So wait, did you do it? Did you watch Reality Check?
Bitch. Did I watch Reality Check? I have to low-key go back on my excitement of like, I feel like I was going to watch Reality Check and come in here and be like, see, bitches, y'all need to get off Tyra Banks' back. She's that girl. Actually?
Yeah. Are you redacting some statements? Now you're like, okay,
Prison.
So the thing, oh my God. I just think it was so sickening that they had this like documentary that did allow everybody to say like their little pieces, their two sides, their 2 cents. I think it was hilarious that it even like gave Tyra the opportunities to reflect on things. They're like, do you have any regrets from this show? And she was like, and they're like, what about that girl who got essayed and you were like, follow her with cameras and make her break up with her boyfriend on camera and shit. And then she's like, oh yeah, I do feel bad about her.
Which here's the thing. She's not, when they asked her, I think the editing was so interesting because one, Tyra was not a producer on this. She was just a talking head like everyone else. However, there was this whole larger alluding to there being a cycle 25 and there was more to come in this America. And so it did sort of feel like, oh, you're towing a line of trying to talk about all the issues so you can move past it and create something else.
And she just is like living in this past. She's living in this past where somehow she thinks that this will be good press for a cycle 25.
It could have been. There's a world where it could have been. I just think Tyra is such an interesting character because, one, a lot of people don't know how the sauce is made. A lot of people don't know how TV works. I think they tried to do something that was really interesting when they were talking about that Shan moment of like who was like essayed, and they asked her, did she know about it? And she was just like, well, Ken Mock, the actual executive producer, she's an executive producer, but in that lower third, it said creator, executive producer, and was just like, well, girl, how do you not know what's going on here?
Yeah.
But Ken was in charge of story. there's a balance of what Tyra was doing as, yes, a creator and executive producer, but she was like a host. She was also a part of story, but there's could have been some things that she was not really aware of. And I think that just is like the truth when it comes to making television. Like you're not going to know all the missing things. Like people are doing certain tasks and that's what they are tasked to doing. Now, if you were a good executive producer, you're going to be all up in their business. But Tyra seems like she was really balancing that.
I want to disagree with you there a little bit. I mean, I think the thing is people want to 100% demonize Tyra for doing some of the crazy shit and demonize all the judges for saying all the crazy shit while we're looking back with our very different viewpoint goggles.
2026 lens. We're looking at America's Next Top Model through that lens.
Well, and the things that seem unbelievable to us to have made it on TV now were outrageous TV back then. Like, I think what does get lost in the context is that TV was this, like, reality TV was this wild new medium for people to be able to push the limits for a culture that had already just gotten that hit of high of outrageousness off of like the Jerry Springer times, off of that sort of daytime TV where people are now attuned to seeing more and more outrageous stuff. And so with reality TV budding in the way it was, like, they had full reins to be like, yeah, you're going to follow these girls 24/7.
Yep.
If she goes into the bathroom and she's not alone, you are going to get that money shot on cam. We are going to watch him cream in her. And then we are going to tell her the next morning and be like, hey, remember when you cheated on your boyfriend, bitch?
And that's the thing. They said they were this reality competition show. They were viewing it as a documentary. And so that means seeing everything. And I'm not saying that it was right, because I think now with everything that we know, a lot of, things were wrong about the creation of that and them keeping on. And I think Tyra, when you get the keys to the castle, you're trying to do everything you can to keep it and keep building it and keep like gaining success. And I see that. But at some point, I do think in this, where she was trying to frame herself as like, I was really trying to like show the holes of the fashion industry and bring in new faces and bring in new body types and all these different things. Yeah. She also didn't realize while simultaneously doing that, she was still like aligning with the system that was already being taken place. And if I'm being also real, the Mr. J and Miss J and the Nigel, they're trying to low-key frame this whole thing as like they also weren't a part of this. Yeah, and I think I was kind of sitting in this this really interesting place of like, yes, we can demonize Tyra, but also y'all had a lot to do with this. Like, where is Janice Dickinson? Y'all, like, all these people have a lot to do with like why all these things are wrong, and it can't just be on one person. And I think when we come back out of this break, I kind of want to talk a little bit more about one, I guess, the connection piece to how it like really hit as a RuPaul's Drag Race girl and America's Next Top Model. I feel like it's a very similar thing.
Girl, we've got a lot to get into because I was just holding my pieces. All right, y'all, let's take a little salad break or whatever the models were allowed to eat. Yeah. We'll see you in a sec.
Highkey.
And we're black.
Yes, we are. And, America's Next Top Model. Okay. So I guess for you, when you think about one, I couldn't help but watching like America's Next Top Model in this documentary and being like, oh my God, RuPaul's Drag Race is literally so similar.
Girl.
And I think the satire about that is like RuPaul is literally like a Tyra, and like a structure like that is what gives the groundwork or the framework to a RuPaul's Drag Race.
Well, and Drag Race literally like cited America's Next Top Model. It cited Top Model and Project Runway when it was starting. And you said something before the break that I actually really want to touch on, which is that like Tyra had this honest intention, and whether or not this is like what really fuels the show or somebody's goals, but she had this honest intention of being like, no, I am a little annoyed at the fashion industry and I want to like break through it. She had these goals of opening up spaces, and I don't even want to say I want to give her credit for this but like the show did have that sort of impact. So much so that like cycles before they ever introduced the idea of male models on the show, I was like, oh, there's something I could be doing here. Like I could fit into this world, this like weird, gangly, skinny boy. Like I know there is a place for me, even though like I'm not seeing it here. And she did the same thing for short people and for girls who came from everywhere, from these like broken homes. And I think what was so honest about it was that Tyra in the beginning of the show was coming from those roots. She was fresh and in touch with like the Tyra Banks who was kicked out of or who wasn't allowed to be on covers, the Tyra Banks who wasn't getting booked for shows.
Right.
And where this ties in for me is exactly what I think of when I think about the trajectory of Drag Race is like Ru and the producers in the beginning had stated that the point of Drag Race was to like shine a spotlight on this art form that means so much to queer people, but also to give somebody the chance to have a little bit of what Ru had and like open career doors and stuff. And I like that Top Model that this documentary talked about how it didn't really work out a lot of the time, and how specifically with girls from earlier seasons, like they kind of got sacrificed to pave the way for bigger opportunities for other girls.
But we've always sort of kind of known that when it comes to these sort of, you know, first seasons of any sort of competition show, it's like, yes, you get success, but you also don't really get any of like the major things, especially reality TV in such that early like age. People weren't like respecting reality TV stars. They weren't thinking of them. Like we heard that Danny from that documentary, she wasn't even able to get booked, and she grew, like she was around the same time as a Chanel Iman. She couldn't even get like gigs because they were only viewing her as a reality TV star and pitching her as that way. That's completely different now.
That's also because the fashion industry itself, and maybe this will affect all the fashion bookings I don't get. The fashion industry is a horrible, horrible place. It is a terrible place that loves to thrive on snobbishness.
Yeah.
That loves to thrive on the accessibility and inaccessibility of things. And so they saw Tyra Banks kind of like the internet sees her now as like, oh, that joke Tyra. God, she's so cringe, thinking she can make fashion for small girls and fat girls and girls with skin disorders.
But doesn't Drag Race have its own systems in that way, right? Like we saw before, you know, in the earlier seasons where the queens that were most respected were the ones that were on the ground in the clubs, the local queens that were like really doing it. And then when the age of social media came up, there was kind of like a look down when it came to like the social media queens. And like, I think there's that same sort of systems in place. And like, I think about season 1 of Drag Race. Yes, it's like iconic and legendary when it comes to like the crunchiness of it all. But like BB, was that the first winner? Yeah, BB was not. She didn't
afforded
really have
the
her
same
moment.
Opportunities.
Yeah, she didn't really have her moment until All Stars came around. That was years later.
This is where it's really interesting, though, is I want to argue something you said earlier where you were saying people weren't getting those sorts of opportunities out of television. And that's what was so fucked up about Top Model is after some point, at least Tyra admitted, like, knowing that this show was not going to open doors for girls and that it was just this monster. She saw the glass ceiling that was being built and she was like, yeah, but the show is getting more and more success and I have to do whatever I want. Whereas other shows at that time, like American Idol, obviously she did fall off the train of launching superstars, but Kelly Clarkson, did she win season 1?
She was the first American Idol.
And Kelly Clarkson is arguably one of the most successful people to come out of reality TV in that way.
Yeah, but that's different. That is so different because people viewed models in that whole entire show. They talked about it in the documentary as a joke. They did not. They were just like, oh my God, women fighting, the cat fights, all the things like getting wax. Like American Idol was based on your like what people considered your talent in singing. She became like America's sweetheart. But
that's what I was saying is there were shows where there were opportunities to break in an industry. And I actually like that you brought up this point of how people view models. And I think this is why Drag Race kind of worked in the same fashion as America's Next Top Model is like, people viewed drag queens in the same diminishing light that society viewed models. Like, oh, you're just dumb bimbos. You're just here to be pretty and vain and silly. And however, what was sick about it was that America's Next Top Model, like you brought up, like killed these girls' chances of being the models that they deserved to be. Danielle.
Yeah.
I just like looking at her face in that documentary. I was like, so why the fuck isn't she selling me everything?
It's insane, right?
I would buy mac and cheese off of her cheekbones.
They were so good.
But Drag Race created an industry. That is what makes Drag Race different from Top Model and from, honestly, almost any other reality TV show is it's not like there wasn't drag around. It's not like there weren't outlets to make a name for yourself in drag, but the sort of industry that we have now where every bar has queens who are trying to push to be something bigger in the city, in the state, who are trying to like cross these lines. And there's this connectivity and community and following for drag. The industry itself was created by Drag Race. And that's where I think the danger comes in, because as Top Model went on and as this documentary explored, it became less and less about Tyra's original goal of trying to create these spaces and more about the show. How do we keep the ratings? How do we keep things outrageous? And it sort of makes a joke of something that society already sees as a joke. So it made me curious.
Well, yeah, I mean, but that also feels like more of a commentary on like how TV and culture was forming, not in how reality TV as a whole was sort of kind of being like molded into whatever that looked like for ratings and the feedback and the money that was all kind of happening in that time. And I think what's really interesting to me, and I think what stood out the most to me about this entire documentary was the best reality shows, and even its connection to Drag Race down the line, the best reality shows are often built off the backs of queer people. And I thought it was so interesting when they were talking about how they were going to pitch this, America's Next Top Model, and they were getting all these no's until the moment that Tyra went in and basically acted like Miss J. And she was mimicking Miss J's, like while doing this storytelling and mimicking Miss J's like full persona. And I thought that was so interesting to me because that's just yet another example of like the power that queer folks have. And I think about a Project Runway of a Tim Gunn where you're using kind of these queer people in this space and then you kind of throw them off to the wayside when they're no longer valuable or no longer when the company or the studio doesn't see them in value.
I mean, in all fairness, they replaced Tim Gunn with another fag.
True. But I will say it was kind of wild. And I mean, and I also think he's at top of mind because he was on Chelsea Handler's podcast and she asked him about it. And he was like, I never got invited back. Like that was just the end of that. They were bringing Heidi back, but they never brought me back. And I'm like,
that's so cold.
That's really, they were like, we don't want him. And so like, I just constantly in the back of my mind are just thinking about how these shows are sort of kind of based off that. And then with Ru being a queer person, sort of going into it, probably saying, I want to make a totally new lane for these marginalized groups and like the queer people all together. And then sort of doing the same thing with his history of like, well, I don't want trans people on the show. And then when there's trans people on the show like that, all these things change and everything evolves. And it's just really interesting to me how the queer lineage of like a lot of the power of these shows and how they have such history.
Can I be real and say that the whole time I was watching Reality Check, I couldn't stop thinking about what Drag Races is going to be like someday. Being like, oh my God, I want to hear the stories, especially because like Drag Race did come at a different time in reality television. Like, I'm not saying crazy shit has never happened on that show, because if you talk to any of the girls from like the original couple of seasons, they will tell you some stories.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, alone the second part episode of like whatever that would be is like alone based on Tyra.
Girl, it does
Tyra
make
Banks, Tyra,
like Tyra, the queen formerly known as Tyra.
Yes.
I don't know. It does make me think a lot about the history of the show, where it came from and how it relates to our community now. But I think this is all some stuff we can dive a little bit deeper in on after a quick break.
Highkey.
Okay, we're back.
Yeah.
So I guess, do you think this like changed people's minds about the history or the legacy of like Tyra Banks? Like, I feel like I've been seeing a lot of like that conversation around this is Tyra Banks' legacy, and like also some like rewriting of that legacy of being like, she wasn't even a top model. She never even had any magazine cover, blah, blah, blah. And that's just crazy.
Yeah, that's nonsense shenanigan. I think, I don't think this actually did anything to either change or damage, or I don't think it altered her legacy, because as even she addressed right at the top of this, it was like, yeah, the world rediscovered top model, like the new generation of people who did not grow up watching it on TV rediscovered it. And it brought out the conversations that a lot of us were already having about it at the time, being like, oh, that's outrageous. Like, a lot of the stuff I remember I didn't like seeing or hearing, and it made me feel uncomfortable in the same way that Jerry Springer ass stuff did. But now we have the language to be like, oh, this is fucked, because why did anyone think it would be good to do race swapping photo shoots? Not once, but twice. I forgot they did it twice,
I forgot they did it twice too. I gagged. I was like, wait, so y'all circled the block and did it again after you
they were
probably
like,
knew that was like a bad decision? It was most definitely.
I never want to hear the internet cancel another person over like blackface that they did 20 years ago, because apparently we as a culture,
we're totally fine with it. We probably
let
like slay.
Yeah.
No, I will say though, I don't think it necessarily like changes her legacy, because my thing is, I do hate the fact that like, one thing that I've always loved about Tyra regardless was how like kind of how her big personality. I've always loved it. I thought she always, when she did, tried to go into her singing moment, when she did her acting, like there was never a model that was kind of sort of taking pop culture in like, and has like a reign of pop culture in the way that she did. I think now I feel like all the sort of wacky things are like her big personality that people loved at one point. I think now people are criticizing her because they have this America's Next Top lens, like Next Top Model lens on this. And they're like, oh, she's just being weird. What is this with this ice cream stuff? What is this? And it's like, Tyra is Tyra. Like, she's always been kooky and wacky, and that's sort of what we've always loved.
But that's the thing, is we just have a word for it now, and that's, I didn't love it.
I loved it.
I always found it entertaining, but I always found it a word that we now throw around for anything, which is like cringe. I was always like, oh God, Tyra, stop acting. Stop it.
I'm sorry. Move Your Body was a hit, and y'all are not going to make that change for me. I'm sorry. That was a hit song. And then when that was a challenge and she made them dance, that was everything. I'm sorry. Y'all are not going to rewrite history for me. Tyra Banks had, and she, at some point, she was that girl.
But it was also cringe. That's the thing, is she was that girl until she did America's Next Top Model, until her personality became a marketable part of her brand. And that's like, I kind of want to like bring this around again and be like, the end of the documentary, her saying all this crazy shit.
Yeah.
And then being like, yeah, and just wait till you see what we have on cycle 25. Like, I don't know if this is going to get us into any sort of toasty waters, but it just shows you how manipulative she is, because all of these different code switches she did. Honestly, when she talked about turning into Miss J, I was like, oh, I can hear it now, because this is the same like fucking voice she snaps into for Santa Smize.
Yeah.
Where it's like, ooh, girl, I am here for your Christmas cookies.
Absolutely.
And I know, because like RuPaul does it too. That's how you win the Snatch game. Yeah. we all love some tomfoolery apparently, but it just made me feel like, that's why I said I don't think it changed her legacy. It just gave me the lens again of looking at her in the way that we do look at things now and be like, girl, that woman is a psychopath. Like but I also do have empathy for her, because what was real in it, even with her, I'm passionately talking about this voice that she code switched into, was like the struggle where she came from, the idea that she did have these doors shut on her. And I think if she could just like remember that person a little bit more, the internet maybe would be it wouldn't be less kind. The internet's a mean place.
I'm sorry. I think at the end of the day, like, you know, and this is no excuse, but I do think at the end of the day, you know, Tyra being a Black woman in all this, and like her being a Black woman in power, I think a lot of that is going to play into the ways that people react to her and talk about her moving forward. And I think that is something that we can't take away out of the situation. And
I mean, this all came from that.
Literally, it all came from that. And I actually really agree with you about like the ways that she code switched, the ways that she answered questions. Like they weren't direct. They were very manipulative. I mean, even the moments where they were bringing up Mr. J and their relationship, and the way that she just shut it down and was like, I don't want to talk about that. I'll talk to him. Still hasn't talked to him. I just think there's so much where now there's a wall. And oftentimes I felt like you just see a blank space, like kind of just happen on her face. And she's just like moving through it. She's not even present. And that is something that I feel like I often, even watching RuPaul in like interviews that he does, he sort of has gotten into that space as well, where it's like, I wonder, do they ever think we worked so hard to get into the room, to get this moment, to get this sort of like, you know, tornado in a bottle sort of like special moment. But I wonder, do they ever believe, well, was it actually worth it?
I mean, I think it's definitely worth it. I think the harder part now is like, I think about being in Rue's shoes and having created this giant franchise, this giant lane for people, and constantly getting the criticism from all sides, not saying he doesn't deserve it, but like constantly being like the whipping boy for the queer community and for drag queens, which in half of our country's mind is the same thing as a trans woman, is the same thing as a pedophile, even though your president is on that list and not any of us.
RuPaul has never really gotten the respect from Black people that I think he deserves. Like, he's not even in the National African American Museum. Like,
because he won't, because he's too trans, he's too gay, he's too faggy, and those are the things. And you know, I spoke about this in the last episode too, but like those are the things that I really relate to RuPaul on. If you read his last book, House of True Faces, Deep Double Sides. Listen, girl.
I think that's a direct quote.
It's not a deep. It's not the exact title. House of the Secret Shade. House of Seeing That Walk. Anyways, in that book, like he says some of the boldest things I have ever heard about how he relates to Blackness and doesn't relate to Blackness, and was like, girl, I like the way Diana Ross walked in a room where like she didn't wear the struggles of Blackness. She wore like the beauty of it. And she was so good at like, she literally said, she's like, yeah, and she didn't make white people uncomfortable.
such a generational thing. And so the thing that we talked to in our, and this is like a throwback, one of our first episodes of this, like of Highkey, when I was in conversation with Laverne, and she sort of talked about, and they're sort of around the same age frame and generational mindset. And she talked about kind of like trying to be more comfortable for white people and make white people comfortable and all these things. And I think that is for sure a generational perspective that is just not going to ever fit in a 2026 lens, or even around the time where Drag Race was really starting. But it's just really interesting because like I said, I don't know if it is worth it if you lose yourself or you lose the initial goal of why you were doing this. And I think Tyra has lost that completely.
I'm with you. And that's why I was saying, I wonder what it feels like to be in Rue's shoes, where you've created something that is bigger than you now. And that, like, if we give it enough time, there will be some cancelable documentary about her and all the different ways that she's moved against queer people or against Black artists, so like,
I do miss, though. I wish they would have talked a little bit more about Andre Leon Talley.
I wanted them to get into like the second generation. Like they rushed
past it in part 3 in such a way where I was like, you didn't even talk about like Isis King, the first trans model on there. Like you didn't talk about any of these major moments that really were, I do think goes into her point of like being able to create a space for new, what models are and what they could be and what they are now.
Highkey.
This is my biggest nitpick with that docuseries was that it clearly came in with a little bit of an agenda. And I'm not saying their agenda was wrong, but
what's the agenda?
The agenda felt like a chance for all the girls from those earlier seasons and honestly, the original other judges to come out and just kind of like air their shit with Tyra, and for Tyra to get the chance to like either take accountability for it or do what she did or whatever. And it wasn't actually really concerned with like the overall scope of the damage being done. Like it felt too tied specifically to those personal circumstances. Cause girl, why did you stop when we got to Andre Leon Talley and Kelly Catrone, who, mind you, said some of the most heinous shit. But for me, it was like even worse because Janice Dickinson, you're like, oh, that's the trope of a battered model who's been through it all and is now taking out her insecurities on these girls. And then you get to somebody like Kelly Catrone, who is a part of the industry that does get to say these things to women and is coming on and being like, she looks like an ugly tranny with a fat toe belly.
Well, here's the thing. I've talked about this. A lot of my background before doing any of this work now, I used to work in fashion and used to like strive to one day, like I've always said, the people on my mood board were Kelly Catrone and Andre Leon Talley. Those were the two like North Star folks. And the reason why it was because Kelly Catrone just represented this sort of like badassness, say it how you feel, let's get it done, sort of like kind of personality. And like Andre Leon Talley was just like, he's a unicorn in this space. And like, he looks like me and feels like me and all these things. And so like, I'm not going to say that Kelly Catrone wasn't awful, but comparing her, in my opinion, to a Janice Dickinson, who is just a full-on racist and an awful person, that's just not going to be like something that I align with.
No, but I do think that there was something to be said about going from a show that's trying to break holes into the industry and then bringing on just another industry cunt who
but
you
needed that. That was a part of the formula of reality TV, especially judging reality TV. You needed a sort of Simon Cowell to be on the judging panel to like push that whole thing. And so there's a piece of me that is just like, this was a part of the formula. Yes, things could have changed and yes, things should have changed. But like, I'm not going to lie to you. I watched all of that stuff in real time and watched it up until cycle 24 when they, swapped out the host and they had Rita Ora and then they brought back Tyra. Like, I watched all of that. I'm sorry. I was still very much into it until it got cringe towards the later seasons. You know what I mean?
Girl, I dropped when they said, and we're bringing Rita Ora. I said, and I have new dreams. I'm a drag queen now.
See, I'm a Rita Ora girl, so I'm kind of like, yes, sis, I'm kind of into it. I like give me nothing while giving me everything all at the same time.
Girl, I'm about it.
Okay, what are you high key about, Yvie Oddly?
Okay, this is gonna be a little weird because actually, fuck it, no, it's not, bitch. I was trying to take a nap yesterday, and Doug was gonna put on a movie or something, and I was like, oh yeah, just like put on something I can fall asleep to. And he starts playing this really cool animated film from like 2006, and I'm like, you piece of shit, and make him change it and take the nap and wake up. And I'm like, all right, I'm ready. You can play the cool animated film you were trying to have a bitch nap through. So my high key is about Scanner Darkly, which is,
I've never heard of it.
It is just like such a strange film. It was all done on all rotoscoped, which means they like filmed this entire movie and then painted over every single frame. So it all looks like this really cool animation cartoon. And it's, without like too much tea, it's about Keanu Reeves. It's about like weird religious organizations. It's about drug addiction, and it's got Winona Ryder cartoonized being a double agent, good guy, bad guy, triple guy. I don't know. It's just so fucking dope. It made me think about my relationships. It made me think a lot about because the whole movie is about surveilling yourself. Like, Keanu Reeves is hired on as a part of this company where nobody gets to know each other's identities. They wear these suits that are constantly shifting, and his job to try and find this drug kingpin or whatever is literally to surveil himself and his house while taking this drug. So he's like splitting this identity, doesn't recognize himself. I don't know. I recommend it. Scanner Darkly.
You always remind me that animated things are not just only for kids. Like there's an adult animation like world out there, and I always forget about it until you like bring up something like this. So adding that to my watch list.
I like it. I like adult animation because cartoons give us this free space to talk about things that we can't otherwise. Like that's what The Simpsons and Family Guy and Rick and Morty and South Park and all of these cartoons do, is they make jokes that we are not comfortable laughing at if they're with real people.
I mean, even some of the kids animated ones, if you go back and see, like they make super interesting toe of the line sort of jokes as well.
Yeah. You like it wouldn't. I would never laugh in real life at seeing a kid like get his head exploded off or whatever. That was South Park's running gag for like the first 8 seasons. It was like, oh my God, they killed our friend again. And it's funny because it gives us this space of like, oh, it's not serious. That wasn't a real person. It does what our moms did to TV. But I've
also never seen South Park either.
I can't blame you. That literally only does have the token black character named Token.
See, that's crazy.
What's your Highkey?
Speaking of shows that are like doing an examination of like human just like interaction and sociology and all the things, there's a show on HBO Max that is new. It's called Neighbors, that I need everyone to watch. It is literally a docuseries, and it basically follows the chaotic and complicated disputes of neighbors. And it is so good. The first 2 episodes are out now, but it is so good. It's sort of kind of like built like a mockumentary in some ways, where it's like, wait, is this real? Is it wrong? Like, is it not real? But it's so real. It's a full thing.
And it is real?
Yeah, and it's so real. And it's really about the disputes of neighbors. And I'm just like, I could have 50 seasons of this. I need everyone to go into like these neighborhoods and talk about why these neighbors hate each other. And like they're following both sides. You hear both sides. There's multiple stories happening in an episode. It's like 30 minutes. It's so good. I randomly watched it this weekend and was just like, bitch, what? And so I love this shit because the people on there are so weird and so chaotic. And it's like, not only, you don't really know what side you pick because one moment you're on one side and the other side you're on another side.
And the next night you're like, well, actually her dog shouldn't have been shitting in my yard.
It's like, it's so good. And so I recommend that. I'm very much high key about Neighbors. So yeah. That is a show. Let us know all your thoughts on what your thoughts were when it came to this, reality check, America's Next Top Model perspective, and also like your thoughts on reality TV in general. Like, are we all just looking at this?
What would it be like to have a Drag Race reality check? Like, what former contestants would you want to see on, and what question would you want to ask RuPaul?
Oh, girl. Oh my God.
I want to see those comments. So make sure you check us out everywhere you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Go leave us some nasty comments.
Please.
You can also...
I love that. I love it every time you do that. It makes me so happy. But most importantly, make sure you follow us on Instagram at Highkey Here, on TikTok at Highkey Here. Share all the clips, repost, do all the things. We love it when you all are engaging and just like going off in the comments. It really makes us happy to see. So we love y'all. See you next week.
See you next week.